Boom. All right. Here we go. 5, 4, 3.
Welcome, everyone, and pull up a seat at the table. It's Lunchtime in Rome. Tonight's episode 206 entitled Very Good Relationships, Mutual Giving. Tonight at the table, we will continue to talk about how to take your relationship from good to very good. We will be discussing the third component that all very good relationships have. It can't just be a one-way relationship. Pull up a seat at the table and join us. First-time listeners can subscribe on your favorite podcast app or watch us live or later at youtube.com/@lunchtimeinrome. Visit us at www.lunchtimeinrome.com. While there, you can take our relational needs questionnaire. Make sure to follow us on all social media, and it would be great if you could give us a 5-star review. Jay Mitlow, what specifically is this podcast about?
Being alone is the worst. Good times aren't as good, and bad times are worse when you're all alone. Romans 12:15 says to rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. That is how you keep people from being alone, and what this podcast is all about. We demonstrate that in the first 15 minutes of the podcast, and we talk about it for the rest. So while it may not be 12:15 in Rome, we're treating it like it is
Lunchtime in Rome.
Announcer voiceover.
Okay. We're back from vacation. We were off for a week.
Welcome back.
Thanks. We got Duke at the table.
Duke.
Yay.
And we also have Rachel, which you
I
already
knew that was.
heard speaking with her grandma glasses on.
It was me. Help, I'm stuck in a tree.
Aw, Sophie Maslow, R.I.P.
So I'll go first. Update. Vacation was awesome. Vacation was, I keep on saying this over and over again because I just keep on telling people, but it was the best vacation we've had in about 4 years. Maggie's also 4 years old, so you can do the math on that. But, she's been a lot, and it's a lot parenting somewhere else, aka vacation, which is shout out to my boss. He always says vacation, like when you're a parent, especially of this age, is just parenting somewhere else. That's all you're doing.
It's a trip. It's not a vacation.
Trip. Unless you're Owen's dad, then it's a vacation.
No, it was still pretty rough.
Yeah. And
he's an easy kid.
He's an easy kid,
As far as I know.
And Maggie's a good kid, but
Yes.
she's just very active and she needs attention and is a lot. But this year we were just surrounded, as we always are, by really great people. Joe and Leah.
You don't
Abby,
find many 21 and
Bella.
20-year-olds who are like, yeah, I want to spend time in the water with your 4-year-old.
Right.
That's
and
kinda
like,
special.
Man, like it would be, Amy and I would be taking our turns going out together. We all go together. And then, Maggie, it never has enough. Like she always wants to go back out into the water and, Daddy, let's go. And then lo and behold, here comes Joe and Leah. Let's go. Or you guys did it. You guys would come up and like, it was just wonderful. And we felt like we could breathe this vacation, which
And
was
I felt
nice.
like she slept much better. Like last year, she had a rough time settling down at night and like.
Who, Maggie?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like she played hard and slept hard on this trip.
Yes.
She didn't wake up once, I don't think, in the middle of the night. Well, that's not true.
I was going to say, I remember a couple
No, there was a. Well, we won't say why. Daddy was snoring.
we won't say why. Daddy was snoring.
But yeah, it was just nice and actually relaxing. Like I actually got to see Amy for a good part of the trip,
Right.
which we normally don't. I know tonight's show's about mutual giving, and in the past years we've, one of us has gone to bed so that the other one can stay up and have fun, playing games and whatnot, and the other one does the opposite, and we switch off and on, making sure we don't miss out. But we also, there's that element of missing out because we're not together. And this year we got to stay up and do a lot of that together. And that was just awesome.
Though I do apologize for all the things that Maggie learned this week.
Well, we're pinching cheekers everywhere. we're pinching cheekers at Aldi. We're pinching no, I'm just kidding.
Actually.
But yeah, it was great. I feel like we finally had a really great vacation in the past several years. So
I'm glad that vacation didn't seem like work.
Right. Right.
I can get away from you.
I actually thought, because our friends, Justin and Lauren, who have also sat at the table, they came down for the latter half of the week. And I told Amy, I was like, do you want to do one more day? And like, never, and like in the past 3 years that we've gone
Right.
down, I would have never said that ever. But I was
Right.
like, I could do one more day. We didn't, but I
thought
could
you
have.
I thought you were going to point out watching them with Noah.
Oh yeah, there was a moment. I'll try to be quick, but there was a moment. It was like looking back in time, where we were ending the day on the beach. Noah was,
Noah's one.
no,
And a
Noah's
half?
two.
Oh, he's two.
He's
Okay.
two.
Two.
So he's full on 2-year-old, and he was running away, and he's being a handful. And Lauren looks at Justin. She was like, "I'll just take him back if you can just get all the stuff, get all the stuff
Yeah.
off the beach." And I was just like, "Yep." I was like, and I went up to him. I was like, "Buddy, what do you need me to carry?" Because because it was just
Yeah.
one of those moments. I was like, it's like looking back the past couple of years. I get it. So let's do this and let's take out everything back. So, yeah, it very much was not that, which was awesome. It was great.
Noah is such a cute little.
Oh, he is
oh
cute.
My gosh.
There's some pictures that Justin got of Maggie and Noah that are just
Yeah.
really cute. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How's Duke?
Duke's doing all right. Though the past 3 weeks have been a little rough. I've kind of been, I don't know, my mood has been muted, just because I've been dealing with a shoulder injury lately for like the ever since vacation, which was like 3 weeks ago. I had my press day, and something went wrong.
Uh-oh.
And afterwards, I felt
Press
some-
day, bench press. Got it.
Yes,
Go on.
yes. So
Was it a bench press or a shoulder
yeah,
press?
it was a bench press and an overhead press. That was the root of the issue. And ever since then, what I think is impingement.
Oh,
but I'm
I
not-
can talk to you about impingement.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, I've got it on both shoulders.
But wait.
mine's structural.
Okay. I don't know what mine is, and it's to the point where I was literally talking with Eric the other day. Like it's that bad. I can't full press. I can't even like do barely half the weight. Sorry, go ahead, Rachel.
Well, that was my question. Does it
Yeah.
hurt on the way up or on the way down?
Both.
Ooh.
Yep. Yep. And it just sucks. I can press like maybe half the weight that I usually can, but then I'm not making any progress. And
Oh, you're still doing work.
Yeah. I can do other like things. Like I can obviously do lower body, and I can do like a lot of pull exercises, but pressing, like pushing, is really difficult.
Like,
for
can
me.
you do like a lat pull down, or can you do a
Yes.
pull up
Yes.
with zero pain?
More or less zero pain. Yeah, like next to nothing. But yeah, anything pushing is really, really, especially overhead press. Is,
Oh gosh. Ugh.
yeah.
I mean, having impingement, yes. Like when
Yeah.
I first noticed it, I was actually swinging a baseball bat, of all things, softball. But it felt like somebody put a hot axe through my shoulder. And then after that, like after the inflammation, and I'm washing my hair by bending over. I couldn't even wash my hair.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But then it was just weak. Like there wouldn't be searing pain, but like I would be doing
Your
it was
arm
my
would be
right
dead.
arm first,
Yeah.
and my left arm was going. I'm like, the right arm's not moving. That's weird. But
Wait,
anyhow,
are you for or against chiropractor?
I had a bad experience with a chiropractor growing up, but Eric has
Just sent you this
yeah,
information.
good on you. So you've like sung the praises of your chiropractor like
Yeah.
all the time. So I'm it's to the point where I need to seek some type of
Yeah.
professional
Yeah.
help.
Try it out.
And I'm willing to do that. So
Oh, listen, I once had a bad shoulder. And we had a chiropractor at our gym who also practiced there. And so he's like, well, let me do some stuff. And so he did, and he kind of diagnosed it. And then he put, do you know what rock tape is?
is it this like stretchy tape? That
Yes.
it's
Like kind of like an ace bandage, but it's real
yeah.
sticky.
Sometimes it comes in fun colors and everything.
Yes.
Yeah, Lydia does that.
And he rubbed it in Tiger Balm first, like that kind of icy hot.
Okay.
And the way he put the tape on, it kind of lifted it. Oh man, that was it. That was, and just rest. I'm not saying that's
Sure.
what is going on with you, but I'm saying like I feel like first step would go see somebody to see.
Yeah. I was
A good
it's not-
chiropractor.
Yeah, I was hoping to like
Right.
fix it, just because the ultimate goal is to strengthen the area. It's just a matter of like what needs strengthened, like what's imbalanced, and I don't really know that off the top of my
Well,
head.
the first thing they'll probably say is rest it.
Yeah, I'm not good with that.
Right. That's kind of a bummer, but
Yeah, the gym is my happy place. You know?
aw.
I went to an orthopedic surgeon, and he diagnosed it as impingement. And basically, the bone that's on top is supposed to go straight out. Mine go down. So like over the years, instead of just my upper arm doing this,
Right.
it was grinding away and
Yeah.
grinding away.
Yep.
And so his solution was to cut off the ends of my collarbones and bring all of those bones back. And I said, no. So I went, he said, I was 30 at the time. And he said, as long as I don't do anything overhand, I'll be okay. And we'll have to have the surgery when I'm 40. Well, I then went on for 10 more years of coaching volleyball and playing left center field and softball. But what I did do was go to physical therapy, and they taught me the right exercises to do. Yeah. And actually my chiropractor changed one of them, and I just strengthened all the muscles around it. I still can't do a ton of stuff. Like, I get one shot at a light bulb. And if I don't get it, I got to take a break, walk around, come back, call Rachel. In another 15 minutes, I can get up there and try again. But
Interesting.
impingement in Rome or shoulder talk in Rome.
Right.
Yeah, so that's kind of been my negative, but
Yeah.
go ahead.
But may we celebrate with you on your last accomplishment. In
The
your
beard.
last competition.
Oh yes.
Wait till you
Well,
tell
Rachel says my beard. Yeah,
She's
my
gonna
beard is
understand.
awesome. But I went to my second match on Sunday. For anybody that doesn't know, I'm a competitive shooter.
Dear.
It's a league called USPSA, U.S. Practical Shooting Association.
I love the practical part.
Yeah, and yes, it's a great organization. People from literally all walks of life will show up there, and you won't believe the types of people that are just crazy stupid good at shooting. But I showed up. It's my second match ever, and I shot in the B class range. So I saw a B class classifier and was in the middle of the pack with B class shooters. So for anybody that doesn't know, it's like right in the middle. So there's D class, C class, B class, A class, master class, and then grandmaster.
Oh dear.
So
So like Doc
So right-
Holliday would be Grandmaster.
that is correct. So it's my goal eventually. It's a game. I'm a pretty good shooter, but it's a game, and you kind of have to know the game and really learn the tricks of the game to get really good. But it's my goal eventually to reach master. So in production division.
Wow.
And what was the one thing you had to do? Like your gun was unloaded.
Oh yeah, my very first stage, we showed up. So a lot of people didn't show up who had originally signed up because it was very, very bad weather that morning.
Is this outside?
It's outside. It's all outdoors, and it started to rain. It started to downpour just as I was heading up to the line. And the first stage was 4 targets in front of me. The par time was 7 seconds, so you had to get as good of a run as you could in 7 seconds. It was 2 shots each target, then a reload, 2 shots each target again. And people weren't even hitting the reload because they were running out of time. They just weren't fast
So you have
enough.
7 seconds to do.
So you had to start unloaded. It was an unloaded start. So you grab your magazine and your pistol, and
Which are holstered.
Mm-hmm. You start holstered. You shove it in, load it, and then you go to work. So I was able to get 6 out of the 8 targets, which was a lot better than everybody else. Well, not everybody. A couple, 2 other dudes were able to hit about the same. So I was blazing fast in the middle of downpouring rain, and I was really proud of myself.
I can't wait to see you shoot in regular dry weather.
I like it.
We'll bring
it's
a
fun.
hose. We'll replicate it.
Well, I feel like when kids now are studying to get their driver's license, there's an app now that you have to put on your phone, and your kids have to log in. I think it's 65 hours of practice driving time, which includes daytime, nighttime, and poor weather, so that when they get their license, they know kind of how to handle. And that's kind of like that. If you're gonna shoot, you need to be able to shoot no matter what.
Well,
Plus, you're racing against people, so you're going as fast as you can, and you're running as fast as you can. You're shooting as fast as you can.
Oh, you're
So
running?
It's you run. You run with a gun in your hand.
Oh,
you shoot.
Lord.
It's
Well,
absolutely.
but I mean, again, practical.
so much fun.
You can't say excuse me, sir, it's raining.
can you hold still?
Right.
Could you put your arms out?
Please do not threaten my family at this time.
yeah.
I can't see you. Could you come closer?
Well, and it's very impressive that you've never been rated and you're already at Class B.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
I had I shot limited division the past time, and I did absolutely terrible. My first match, but luckily forgot to put in my member number, so it didn't get
I
scored.
think nobody knows.
So nobody knows.
Who is that guy?
Except for now that we put it on the internet. But
Hey, listen.
Yeah, so I put my member number in this time, remember to, and shot a B-class classifier, which I was really, really happy about.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So fun.
For me, vacation was a blast. I've been on a lot of vacations, and I don't know if I had better weather.
Oh,
We had a
weather was
storm
just
one night.
unreal.
2,
But in the middle of
3
the
in the
night,
morning.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that was it. No other rain. Got to spend a lot of time with Eric in the mornings trying to help solve the whole shared duties thing. So we would get up early and go play 9 holes of disc golf with Maggie, who is an excellent map reader.
The best.
I heard about this.
The best.
Every hole we played this 9-hole course at a community college, which was 8 of the 9 holes are entirely in the woods. And so she would look at the picture and she would say, number 2, 145 feet. The basket is in the woods according to the map. And every time, according to the map.
Then
not
she would come home and she would tell me, Aunt Rachel, the basket was in the woods according to the map.
But it was fun to solve a relationship issue with disc golf, basically, because then Eric gets to disc golf, Amy gets to sleep in, Maggie gets to get some exercise,
Everybody wins.
and I get to look, like a hero. I mean, that's basically, I hate to use that word, but
It
Genius.
fits. Right.
genius,
It
expert.
applies.
Yeah. And I got a hole in one.
Yeah,
Oh,
you did.
yeah.
The ace.
Nice.
My first and a half legitimate one. I had one at the church course on the last hole. And
This was a legit ace,
Yeah.
man.
Not
you
an easy
had,
hole.
You threw your disc on the most perfect line.
It
was unbelievable.
It's such an amazing noise when it goes into the chains
From throwing
off
it
the
that
tee.
far.
Oh,
Yeah.
so good. And didn't you say to me, honey, did you run all the way there to get it? And I was like, nah, it was hot.
It was so hot.
I thought that was one of the rules that they
no
run up.
rules.
You
And,
can. You can.
I could have. It had been a while though.
Have you watched the latest tournament?
I'm aware of what happens, but I have not watched it yet.
I was just gonna say, when Ricky Wysocki, he gets like a throw in. They call it raptor legs.
Oh, it's
he
raptor
runs,
legs.
because he's
Oh,
so
yeah.
tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But we did take the picture
Yes.
of you and the
We
disc
did?
at the basket. That is a must do.
yeah,
Yeah.
take
Okay.
a picture.
Yep.
and it's an excellent picture. Like, that's one of the best pictures of him.
It's a great picture.
Yeah.
Good picture. And of course, all the cooking, and that was fun. And came home to just woo. There's
We're back in it.
there are still lives here, and people still need to be loved and to come alongside them, and that's my calling, and so that's what I do. And somebody said to me the other day, Jay, what are you burdened by? And I was like, well, and without using names, I was like, bing, bing, bang, bang, bong, bong, and I'm like, but God's in control, and it's sort of my job to walk alongside him, so it's okay,
Yeah.
but it's a lot,
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely a lot.
So, but it's summertime, and so I have Rachel with me so much more.
Right on.
Yes.
What's up with you, honey?
Oh, all right. Glad you asked. Vacation was great. We got out of an escape room.
We did.
That was super fun to do. I love escape rooms. This week, I'm getting ready for Bella's graduation party on Saturday. And
Oh yeah.
What?
Who is?
I am.
Okay.
We are. Okay, I meant specifically the decorations and stuff.
Oh, I have nothing to do with that.
Sounds like Jay's giving a lot more.
I didn't go to Michael's and buy that stuff for you. Whatever, it's cool.
It's called mutual giving.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I'm making the sliders.
I'm so excited.
Rachel,
for the
what are you
sliders.
doing?
Nothing. Nothing. There's going to be nothing. But no, I felt really good about getting a lot of stuff done.
It's
for
Wednesday
that.
and you feel good. I
Yeah.
mean, like
Oh,
the
that's
picture
awesome.
boards are done, the centerpieces are done, the balloons are bought.
Yeah.
I feel like
Cupcakes
picture
are ordered.
pic-
really
picture
exciting.
boards are a lot, and you're doing like old school like print pictures.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I guess I went to Walgreens, picked those up.
Yeah, but who put them on the board?
Oh, you think I'm touching that?
No.
No, sir. I mean, it was only 5 of them.
I
Or is
know
it
it got out of
five
hand.
boards.
Oh, yeah.
It got out of
Good
hand.
night.
Listen, she's done a lot of things
She
in
has
her
done. She's been a
school
very
career.
successful kid.
I will say I went through. I have a bin with a folder for each kid's grade, and I put like important stuff in that, and so that I know where it is. Like if somebody's like, "Where's Bella's blah 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 from 3rd grade?" I'm like, "Oh, right here." So I went through there and I collected every single one of her concert pamphlets and anything that had her name on it. Like, so there's going to be a whole stack of stuff of her accomplishments throughout elementary, junior high, and high school. So I would appreciate it if everybody looked at those. And
Oh, I will. I always love a good picture board.
All right.
So I'll definitely look at
And
it.
in honor of my mom,
Yeah.
God rest her soul, you should look at some of the programs and be like, oh, who names their daughter? And then find the most outlandish name and just give a little shout out to Betty up there. That'd be nice. I do want to say one last very quick thing. We, the Mitlows and hers, went to a Mexican restaurant, which we've driven by hundreds of times over the years. And I'm like, you don't go to a Mexican restaurant on vacation. We don't even eat out that often. But this year we were going to eat out. I'm like, let's try that Mexican place. I said to my man, who was already crushing it, the server, and I said to him, hey, which of your sauces are gluten-free? And he goes, oh, well, everything we make here is fresh, and we try to keep everything as clean as possible. So really the only thing that is flour is the flour tortillas. And I was just like, I love you so much. And I got a cabeza taco, which was a cow's head taco, the meat from a cow's head.
Nice.
And it was
no,
delicious.
gross.
I would try that.
And a shrimp taco and a carne asada taco. And it was delicious. It was wonderful. It was a great experience.
That's awesome.
That
It
is
was
awesome.
wonderful.
What was the place called?
Mama's Central Cantina or something
I don't
like
know.
that in Brunswick County. Or was it Calabash? I don't know. But
Hard
it was
to
great.
say.
We'll put it on the show notes.
Okay.
So, we have talked about how we just had a very good vacation. And that's good because you can't, it's really terrible when you spend a lot of money on a vacation and you're like, well, that wasn't what we wanted at all.
Dang it.
Or it was fine. And that's not what you want. You want very good. Well, how much more important is a very good relationship? And this goes back to all the way to the Garden of Eden. And whether you believe in the Bible or not, whether you think it was a literal 7-day translation or that it's symbolic, the point is when God made everything, it was good. But when he made Adam and Adam was alone, it was not good. Then when he created a relationship and there was Adam and Eve, it was very good. And that's what we've been talking a lot about for the last 3 weeks is how to make your relationship very good. When I meet with a couple for pre-marriage teaching, the first homework assignment they have is ask people, how is their relationship? I can think of maybe once or twice where one of the answers was somewhere near very good. And so we've been talking about that for the last 3 weeks, and tonight we finish, but we want to review the first two components. There's 3 components that every very good relationship has. The first one is Christ at the center, more so than just a slogan, more than a plaque in your kitchen, more than, I don't know, what else would there be?
A T-shirt.
A T-shirt, an empty promise,
Bumper sticker.
bumper sticker, more
I'll stop.
stick figures on the back of your car that says our family, I don't know. has
Christ is the biggest stick
the
figure
biggest
in the
stick figure. That's a lofty thing to try to make a Christ stick. Oh, that could go real bad too, though.
Yeah, stop.
So, I wanted to add to that sometimes when I have married people who do not have a relationship with God through Jesus Christ, to which some people still think I shouldn't do, and that's fine, and that's another podcast for another day, but they'll say, well, yeah, but I don't believe in God. And they'll say, so can we not have a very good relationship? Or I believe in a higher power, or I believe in the universe. So is that good enough? And you guys would all answer probably what?
Not as good.
There you go. What else?
Second, Eric.
Third.
Right. Because it's, on the one hand, or even some people say, well, we go to a therapist and we meet with them. Can that be at the center of our relationship? And where it is good to have a third party on the outside caring about your relationship, while there is valor in having somebody who's objective, not in the relationship, being there as a sounding board or whatever else, and having the outside perspective, to truly understand who God is and how much he loves us, and having that relationship with him, you then would therefore understand that he created each person in the relationship. He knew them before they were even in their mother's womb. He knows everything that's going about them, and he is going to communicate to the two people in the relationship. If we're talking about a marriage, the two have already become one, and he has ordained that. If you are somebody who has followed Christ or follows Christ in their own personal life. If you believe all of that, what's better than that in the middle of your relationship? Nothing is the obvious answer to that. A counselor, they might have wisdom and they might have insight, but they don't have a buy-in like God does with you. And if it's not a marriage relationship, well, God still cares about both people in the relationship. He still knows both people in the relationship, whether they know him or not. Mm-hmm. So while it's good to have an outside perspective and everything else, having Christ at the center is unique compared to all those other things. Mm-hmm. And I said to Rachel tonight about a different topic. I said, I think it might even have been about mutual giving. But I said, it's just like everything I teach and everything I preach. It's not rocket science, and it's not complicated, and it's somewhat obvious.
But nobody's doing it.
But do you do it?
Right.
You know, we talked to somebody who recently broke their streak of Be Real, which I mentioned it in church. It's an app where they send you a notification, and you're supposed to take a picture and be real.
Right.
And it was like they'd had a 90-day streak. And I wanted so desperately to be like, have you prayed for 90 days straight? You know, have you read your Bible for 90 days straight? And I can look in the mirror
Right.
and say the same thing. So keeping Christ at the center has got to be intentional. And I think there's nothing like it.
Well, may I add?
You're always encouraged. Whew, that was close.
Well, and I just feel like a relationship outside of God's will or control or Christ at the center, like the world is so ready to say, hey, if it's not working, just get divorced. Like it's so easy to
Throw it all away.
throw it away, be all about you. Like I think in that setting, each partner is just focused on themselves, not on their partner. And it's just so easy to walk away. The world has made it easy to be like, well, we tried. All right, we'll go our separate ways, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, whereas I feel like Christ is the center, you're looking for how to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And also to trust that God is going to meet your needs, to put your trust in God, that he's working, you know, in Duke, in your case, that he's talking to Lydia right now, or is potentially talking to her right
Trying
now.
to.
Right, yeah, about you. And that therefore you can relax and focus on her because you know your needs are being met. Otherwise it becomes it's very selfish is the way to put it. Mm-hmm. Eric, why don't you take us through open and honest and vulnerable?
Yes, it is not discreet or clouded. It is not manipulative, and it's expressing a need or a hurt.
Once again, obviously,
Right.
of course we communicate that way, except we don't.
Right.
I think which of those, open and honest, are kind of the same thing. So
Right.
let's look at open and honest and vulnerable. Which of those do you think is more challenging for people in relationships?
Vulnerable.
Woof.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I would say it was good, Rachel. Sorry.
I was just going to say it's really difficult for some people to be vulnerable. Like that's uncomfortable. So I don't want to.
Yeah, by its nature, you must show the other person your weakness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like for me, I have a high need of acceptance. So when it comes to vulnerability, I feel like it's heightened for people with needs like me. Jay, I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I feel that way.
Well, I made a face because I thought you said it tightened, but you said it's heightened,
Yeah,
which made more sense.
right.
If you have a high need of acceptance, meaning you're loved even though you've made a mistake, are you therefore more likely to not want to be vulnerable?
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
Or you don't want to be vulnerable and say that somebody hurt you because you don't want to.
Okay, that's a much better way to put it.
right.
Yeah, because when we're talking about communication, it's communicating a need or a hurt.
Right.
You might communicate a need. You're not going to communicate a hurt.
Right.
You're just going to.
It's a lot harder to do when you have especially for me. Like when somebody's hurt me, it's really difficult for me to get the gumption to get up and tell and express how I felt to that person.
Right.
Because I don't want our relationship to be harmed.
Right, even though it has been.
Right.
Right. But
Right.
it feels weird and awkward. I don't like to be embarrassed.
Right.
I
If we
don't-
can just pretend to move on and,
Right.
and pretend like it never happened.
Or I
Right.
don't want to
that'll
be
easier.
told. I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to be told I'm wrong or whatever. Like,
So once again, acceptance and security kind of go together a lot.
Yeah.
And so therefore, I can imagine if you have a high need for acceptance, a high need for security, you're not going to express a hurt.
Well, and that's the world like we live in that we've talked about. Like nobody's doing this.
No.
Because a lot of people just go immediately to defensive. Well, I didn't mean to hurt you. Right. I know.
Right.
If you did, you're a horrible person. But like
We might have to do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we should. But that's why a lot of people don't, because they're afraid to.
What emotional needs would you have to have a high amount of? If you have a need of blank, would keep you from expressing a need.
Expressing a need.
So whereas high need of acceptance will keep you from being vulnerable with hurts.
I would say respect.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Any others?
I was going to say,
Or can you give an example? Or what does Rachel want to say?
I always get them confused, encouragement and support. Like,
Right.
I have a lot of need for encouragement, but not a lot of need for support. So if I'm working on something, I don't need for
Can
you
you
to come
imagine me
in.
trying to help you with those picture boards?
Right, like the picture boards. I am in my happy place working on them, just plugging away. I don't need you to come in and be like, so I'm not going to say, man, I'm really overwhelmed with these. You know, like, I don't, do you know what I mean? Like, even if I need help, I'm not going to ask for it because, like, I don't have a high need for.
So what you're saying is if you have a high need for encouragement, but not a high need in support, you might be just not saying anything.
Right.
Because you just definitely don't want the support. So it's easier just to get it done and not have the encouragement or the support.
Right.
Fair. And respect.
I don't have a high need of respect, so
You're like, I can't identify with it. I just got the right answer.
right. I mean, I get it. Like a person with a high need of respect. Yeah, go ahead, dude.
Yeah, so
I know you.
I that's one of my higher ones. If I were to communicate that I had a specific need that that I felt vulnerable about, that maybe I felt a little shameful about, maybe it made me look like somebody who couldn't handle their own business, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Then the other person might not respect me as much.
Right.
Right.
But I like what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
You just said, if I'm being vulnerable, I'm going to feel shame.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like those are two separate things. Like, you shouldn't feel shame asking for what you need.
Sure.
That's
Up
not
here,
being
that makes sense.
Right.
Right.
I'm just
But
saying.
that's what
But in the
precludes
real
somebody with
world,
high respect.
you know.
Right.
Well, yeah. If let's say that I have a high need for security and I also have a high need for respect. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, but let's say like if I speak my need for security, like I have a high need for it and I don't have a lot of it, then it might seem to other people, my perception might be that other people think that I'm insecure, and that would be a hit to my need for respect.
Ooh, good one.
That makes sense.
And that's another podcast we should have, which is, and I don't think we've done this, emotional.
Duke's need for respect.
Yeah, let's focus on that. And his unwillingness to ask for help. No.
And his insecurities.
No, but
Not very vulnerable.
Put it
in
all on
front
the
of people.
table.
emotional needs that clash,
Yes.
like security versus
Yeah.
respect, encouragement versus support. I think that's something we could really dive into, because that's what
That'd be
whenever
interesting.
I do the relational needs questionnaire for a couple, and I'm just, especially if I don't even know them, and I'm just getting to know them, I look at their results and kind of say, okay, look, is this the kind of fight you normally have? And they're like, oh my gosh, how did you know? And I'm like,
Well, and it's interesting. That would be a good episode, because Patton, who frequently sits at the table, is asking.
shout out
about,
to Patton.
Like, should I be looking? Because he's of the age. He's young, looking for partner in marriage and whatnot. And should I look for another person with the same emotional needs as me? And I said, no, not necessarily. It's-
Complimentary.
right, complementary, right? Or just you need to meet each other's emotional needs. You need to know what each other's are
Right.
and just meet them.
And it doesn't mean you can't meet them, but it's like you can point out here, again, here's the fight that you have every 3 months with different details. And it's like, oh my gosh, yeah. But that's also the great opportunity for love. When Rachel comes alongside me and puts her hand on my knee and taps it, I know that that's a great sign of affection from Rachel. Whereas somebody else who hugs me all the time, like an older lady,
And Max is
man.
close.
Max,
Max isn't an older lady. What?
All right. right, Chris.
There are things you don't know. Okay. Yeah, Chris. Like, thanks, whatever. So, it's just the challenge that presents itself, which is a good podcast for another night. One of the reasons why people will not be open, will not be honest, and certainly will not be vulnerable is if they are not in a relationship that has mutual giving. And as I started to prepare for this podcast, I was like, right, how are we making an entire podcast about, yeah, you should do that? I mean, yeah, we both mutually give. But I think very often we see what is defined as a one-way relationship or a one-way street in a relationship where the one person gives, the one person acquiesces, the one person apologizes. And historically speaking, it's the strong-willed man, and the light, frilly, wife that's, Archie Bunker and Edith. For those of you who are
Duke's like who?
40,
I got nothing.
40 and over. Do you even not know who I'm singing of?
No.
All in the Family? Oh, that's even great. He doesn't even know about it.
Yeah.
But it's a stereotypical blue-collar worker who comes home and the wife dotes on him or whatever. And it's just that way. It's the one person. We see this in our Christian world very often with the one spouse, which is a Christian, who marries the one who's not. And so they're the one who are always sacrificing because they're trying to show them the love of Christ, and the other person's just sort of like, whatever, dude. And again, not all, I don't want to say Christian, non-Christian marriages look like that, but very often they do. And I've had people say to me, my number one mission field is my spouse. And I know that we weren't equally yoked, as Christians say, when we got married, but it's my job to love them until they come to know Christ. Okay, that's okay. That ain't gonna be a mutually giving,
Right.
And
Lot of giving.
not all non-Christians are, takers and not givers, and we get that. But I'm talking in generalities.
Right.
And so, can a relationship exist if and by the way, there's also no-way relationships where there's just two islands who live together. And in the first episode of this series, we went over for an entire podcast, divorce rates from the 1930s to today by decade.
Yeah.
And in many years, the divorce rate was very low. Well, guess what? They were filled with no-way relationships.
Right.
Like my grandmother and grandfather on my dad's side were married for 70 years. They were not meeting each other's emotional needs
Right.
in any way, shape, or form. So see, it can be done.
Right.
But is it very good?
No.
No.
It is not very good. And again, that's kind of obvious. But I think people say, well, my parents have been married for this many years. Yeah, but is it a very good relationship? No, it's not. If you say, okay, well, what's the opposite of mutual giving? And it's the selfish taking. We've talked about this so much. The stealing to get your needs met. Can anybody think of an examples of that? Like, instead of being open and honest and vulnerable and giving and what am I doing? The Joey from Friends.
Oh.
Marriage is the giving
And
and,
the
receiving
and
and
the
the
receiving
receiving and the giving. He does it for the person that always needs affection.
Oh.
So instead of being open and honest and vulnerable, and the other person then giving it to them, well, then they tackle them, they tickle them, they get into it. Why are you laughing?
What? The floor varmint?
Oh, the floor varmint. I miss the floor varmint.
I don't.
Rachel, since you brought it up, why don't you explain this before we learned about mutual giving?
So Jay has a very high need for affection. I have a very low. I think they're total
the
opposites.
first
This
time.
is news.
This is the
Right.
first time
Never
I'm
heard
hearing
of
of
that
this.
before.
Shocking.
Duke's like, I've met you.
So when we first got married, first time living together, he would do this thing where he would hide down on the floor in another room, and when I would walk past, he would yell floor varmint, and he would come and tackle me and like tickle and like, first of all, it scared me. Second of all, I don't like being tickled. Third of all, it was not enjoyable. Do you remember the one time? Who was it that came to the door?
That would be the Bavards, Andy and Francine Bavard.
yeah.
I'm 28, she's 23. We're newly married. There's a 45-year-old couple who's on our Young Life Committee, helps raise money for the ministry, whatever else. I'd taken Rachel down And was I doing the whole spit thing, drop it on top of you kind of thing, where you suck it back up right before it drops on their
Yes.
face?
And I'm screaming like,
the top of her lungs.
like, stop it, get off me, let go. And like, then you hear knock, knock, knock. And we were like,
Oh, they're already looking at you.
you know, so all they can hear is me screaming, stop it and get off. And then whatever. What else was there? What was this? There was some other characters that were
Well,
throughout the years.
and here, and just as far as if we're going to make it all about me not having my needs met, I
Congratulations.
still am the youngest of 5, and my sister above me, Marcy, is 4 years. So it goes 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, 11 years older than me, and I was neglected emotionally a lot in my life, and so Floor Farm it actually started at home, but that wasn't a need for attention. So I would just tackle my sister and hold on to their ankles and make them drag me across the floor and all that kind of fun stuff. And guess what? It did not meet my need for attention. It really didn't. And just like that doesn't necessarily meet my need for affection. And to be fair, as you have mutually given more and more affection and attention, Floor Farm has been gone for a very long time.
I know. That's why I said it was a long time ago.
I can't get this image out of my head of Jay, like just people walking into church, just, just getting attacked by Jay on the floor.
Floor varmint.
During worship.
I'm telling you, Bernice would love it.
Oh, yeah. Big fan.
I can't think of who else. I think Maggie from Ghana would think it's funny.
Oh, Jay.
Max would just start cuddling.
He'd be like, I'm in.
So that's, and it not only does stealing a need, and again, that happens in a one-way relationship or a no-way relationship, not only does it not meet your need, it doesn't satiate. Your needs are emotional, and it's to be shared with somebody else, but it robs the spouse, it robs the other person in the relationship of the blessing, the opportunity to meet your need. You know, how often, like, you know, you buy a gift for somebody and they're like, oh, I already have it. You're like, oh, okay, sorry, I'll just take it back.
Right.
So that's what happens. And in essence, no needs are being met when there isn't mutual giving. The island, the one-way street, the no-way street, it's stealing emotional needs. It's not sacrificing to meet each other's needs. To meet somebody's needs, it's your method of loving the other person. The Bible's very clear. Like, if it's just words, it's hollow and it doesn't mean anything. But there's got to be actions that go with it. If I say I love my children, but I don't feed them, well,
Right.
that's not love. And it's simply putting the other's needs. And I'd like to talk about this for a second. The way I would say it is, you're putting your needs at least with, if not healthily above, yours. Is that a fair statement? Even with yours. So your needs matter as much as my needs matter. Or maybe they matter even a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Is that feasible? Is that functional? Is that healthy in your guys' mind? Can you place your other, I guess, let me rephrase the question. Can you place your spouse's needs above yours in a healthy fashion?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I thought it was a little more controversial than that.
Well,
You can't neglect your own, though.
I will say
That would-
it's easier to say that than it is to do it.
Right.
That's
To be
a brilliant
fair.
point.
I think it's
Yeah.
where it starts to stumble into the unhealthy is when you start to meet the other person's needs at the expense of yours, knowing that like it won't be reciprocated. That's kind of like the abusive relationship.
Yeah.
It becomes a one-way street.
Right.
Exactly.
That's fair.
Resentment. What? Were you going to say that?
No. I keep saying street and I mean relationship. And I not autocorrected. I corrected this outline like 1,000 times last night from one-way street to one-way relationship. And so just now Duke makes a great point. I'm like, yeah, it becomes a one-way street.
But I think what you were saying, like that builds resentment when you're consciously trying to meet your partner's need and not getting your needs met. Well, now I'm irritated and don't want to do it at all. You know, like.
Because it's not mutual.
Right.
And that's it. You have to trust that the other person is doing it, which does what? It goes back up to the top. Is God aware of what's going on? And is he going to work in their hearts? Maybe not tomorrow. maybe 6 months, maybe a year. I mean, think of how different you and I are than we were 20, almost 4 years ago.
Yeah.
We've grown, I said to Bob McGinnis, who was a Young Life staff guy, 50, 20 years older than me. And I said to him before we were married, I said, Bob, the thing is, I want to talk about our problems. And Rachel doesn't want to talk about them. And I was so upset. I'm like, I don't know, I think we might break up. And he just started laughing. And I said, what? He goes, that's going to be your thing. He goes, that's just the dynamic in your relationship that you guys are, that you're going to clash. And I said, will it get better over time? He goes, no. Now, with all due respect, Bob, you were wrong.
Yeah.
It took a long time.
Sure.
But we were able to do that because we got Christ, got Christ into the center of our relationship. We were open and honest and vulnerable, and we do mutually give. So it is okay for us to put each other's needs above ours. And like you said so brilliantly, Eric, it's easy to say, but it's so easy to do.
Yeah.
Is it possible to have a relationship with Christ not at the center and have it not be transactional, like exclusively transactional? Like
I don't know what that means.
Well, so like if you have a relationship where Christ isn't at the center, and if I
Keeping
give you
score.
all these, if I meet all your needs and my needs aren't being met, what am I naturally going to do if Christ isn't at the center?
Leave.
Well, I'm going to, at the very least in that moment, try to start to roll back not meeting your needs.
Right.
Or start to not meet your needs.
Be
as
more
much.
selfish.
Right, because
or
if
wait,
I'm not getting this in return, why would I give you that? It's like
Right.
if I'm not getting money for this service, why would I give this service?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like if without that outside sort of beacon, without that outside standard, like is it possible for a relationship to not be strictly transactional in terms of emotional needs?
I mean, is it possible? Sure. Is it likely? No. Is it likely in a Christ-centered relationship? Well, with truly Christ at the center, it's very possible, and I would almost say likely. I would also say that's maybe 2% of marriages. So I think otherwise it will always devolve into that because to some degree, every relationship is transactional. What am I giving you by spending time with you? What do I get from you? At its very level, you're keeping me from being alone. I'm keeping you from being alone. So therefore, eventually, I'm at too much of a deficit. But I think in a season, if you're truly centered on loving that other person, coming alongside them out of a love that Christ has given both of you, you can say, okay, I can go for this season. Now, what if that season is 10 years? Well, if that's what God's calling me to do, then that's fine. Much less likely outside of that. Okay, why do people not mutually give in relationships?
One person is more committed to the relationship than the other.
I would think so. I mean, it's just the one person is committed to the relationship and the other, imagine a guy has a super high need for security and respect. And the woman or let's say the woman does.
Is it Duke?
No, but
Okay.
that was true earlier. Okay, but let's use that. He's got a high need for security, a high need for respect. Let's assume Lydia has a high need for belonging and just really wants the relationship to work. She's like, hey, I need you. You didn't do this for me, and I just want our relationship to work. And he's like, yeah, right. Everything's good. Everything's fine. Because you're like, no, don't tell me I did anything wrong. I'm good. And she's like, but I really want to work on this. And so therefore, she's going to keep wanting to work in the relationship. And you're like, no, the relationship is fine. Let's leave it right where it is. So the one person keeps giving and you're like, no, I'm fine. Not you, but you know what I'm saying. Or quite simply, the one person's more bought in than the other. They're going to try and the other one's not. If we look at the one-way relationship in the missionary dating, the missionary marriage, they're going to just keep giving and giving and giving because they think they're being Christ-like, and maybe they are. And the other person's like, yep, leave me alone. I'm fine. Beyond that, one person could be manipulative. They're so good at stealing their emotional needs. And this, you say, well, that's a sociopath. Well, maybe, but not necessarily. Like, I've seen many relationships where one person manipulates the other person.
Right. when you use your emotional need against the other person is a form of manipulation.
Yeah, if you're not expressing it honestly
Right.
and openly, and then you're not meeting their needs. And to Duke's point, if you get too deep into the transactional aspect of a relationship, and you're like, well, you haven't done this, so I'm not going to do that for you. And so therefore, we're keeping score, we're adding things up. There's no Christ at the center. There's nothing at the center. So therefore, it's not going to be met. Eric, why don't you take on the next one?
One person is incapable of giving, meaning they might be physically sick or they might be emotionally impaired, previous hurts conditioning the person to not meet the other's needs.
You know, the first one, you might be in a marriage where, I said there's seasons.
Yeah.
If somebody's got cancer, or somebody's been in a terrible car accident, okay, you're going to go through a time period where there's no mutual giving.
Or even like if the wife is pregnant and not feeling great, that could be a time of not being able to.
I would agree. No, I agree. I agree.
You
Where
wouldn't
it's
call
got
a
to
pregnant
be,
woman physically sick, but I'm saying that's also a season of time where.
she's not going to be able to meet his needs as much.
Right.
Yeah. And the reason why I'm pausing is to make sure that we're still focusing on emotional needs. Because she's like, there you right now, 7 months pregnant. She's still meeting your emotional needs, but she might need a little more and
Right.
take a little more from you. So it might be a little imbalanced for a time period. But the second one, being emotionally impaired, and I don't mean necessarily in a diagnosable way. Like certainly if somebody's bipolar or
Sure.
is going through a schizophrenic episode, you're like, you know what? I was going to make a really inappropriate example, but
Good job.
when you ran away for 10 months, that really hurt my need for security.
Ah.
Like, that was my appropriate one, by the way.
Yeah.
But, and I think this is true of so many relationships, so many, not even relationships, people, that we're not having our hurts comforted.
Right.
It's just not what's taught. It's not what we do. People don't come alongside. And we're not looking to meet people's emotional needs. That's why we do this podcast, because we think there's a market for that. I think the greatest effort moving forward is making people realize there's a market for it. People don't realize what they need. Well, so therefore, your parents didn't meet your emotional needs growing up. Your friends sure as crap didn't meet your emotional needs growing up. Oh, so now you're in a relationship where you're most vulnerable with somebody. You're going to open up to them?
Right.
You're coming in with your guard up.
Right.
I thought you were going to say something.
No.
You're going to say right.
Right.
There it is.
Could also be like they just don't understand the framework of how to meet somebody's emotional needs. For instance, like man comes home to wife wants to just be heard, but man is the man and wants to fix her problem, and doesn't really understand the framework of I want to be man wants to be there for his wife. Like he wants to solve her problem, right? He wants
Facts, logic, and reason.
Yeah, he wants to solve the issue and so make it so that she's not upset anymore. But really, what she wanted was just somebody to talk to and have somebody listen to
Right.
her. Like maybe they just don't understand the framework, and that's kind of like where I was before all of learning all of this stuff. Was I didn't really understand the framework, and it was nice having like we said having like a language, having like a
Yes.
way to
Toolkit.
Yeah, toolkit. A way to give words to the things that we were trying to say.
No, I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Whereas we just said incapable, you would say ill-equipped.
Yeah.
They might have
Right.
the greatest of intentions.
Right.
I'm a
But the-
huge fan of facts, reason, and logic. Like that, I feel like is my.
It's that order every
Oh
time.
my stars! Did you just correct me?
Yes, but it was at least correct.
What
He
did
did
I
not
say?
incorrect.
I very often incorrect Jay.
You said facts, reason, and logic.
It's facts, logic, and reason.
Yes.
Well, okay.
Look, Bob Pliskowski, the general, is making T-shirts with FLR on them because he's so proud of facts, logic, and reason, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but I feel like that's where I came into the relationship with I'm stronger at facts, reason, and logic. Did I
Oh,
do
boy.
it wrong
Oh,
again?
my gosh.
Oh my gosh! Start
Somewhere
over.
Bob is like shivering and he doesn't know why.
Michael would say it's because of the blood pressure.
Big guy.
Whereas I'm not good at the emotional needs stuff. Like, I need to work, I think, harder than you do at that. So, yes.
Duke, 5 bonus points.
Yay.
Ding, 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 ding.
And now we're going to go negative to positive.
Yes.
So when you don't have mutual giving, what happens in a relationship?
Intimacy is lost.
Thank you. I didn't have my glasses on.
It's just the two have not become, they're no longer one. You know, I mean, imagine a human body. And if the bone structure said to the muscles, we're not going to carry you anymore. I don't know.
Trying to really refine
That
that.
does work, but
if
I mean, you are right.
if the blood said, you know what, we're not going to the brain anymore. You know, I don't know. I mean, it's not one. What'd you say?
Went on strike.
Yeah, you know, they're mad about something. All right. But there is no more intimacy. It is, you know, when you have that knowing look with your spouse, when you look at your child and like you already know what's going on and like you could, well, here it is. When you correct your child with a gentle look, not the stern, I'm going to kill you look, but when you kind of give them the eye raise and they're like, all right, cool, I get it. Like that's intimacy. That's we know each other,
Right.
And we're in that moment, you know.
A non-versation per se.
Oh yes, a non-versation where everything is said, but nobody had to say it. So that isn't there when there's no mutual giving, and you lose that intimacy in a relationship.
Both people suffer differently.
How so?
I don't have my glasses on.
They're right here.
I know, but can you just read it?
It's coming out organically.
The giving one's needs.
Thank you.
Giving one's needs aren't met.
Yeah, that's pretty simple. The receiving one, they become an island. That goes back to Duke's, you know, transactional thing. Like, I'm out.
The receiving ones becomes an island.
Because you keep receiving. You're an island. You're not giving anything. It's a one-way street. You know, it's all about you. You're not part of this community anymore.
So the person that's getting is the island?
Sure, both of them are really.
Yeah, okay.
To be
That
honest.
makes
They're
yeah.
two different islands.
Yeah,
No
because I was
bridge.
going to say, I feel like if I was giving everything, I feel like I'm on the island.
You're in the ocean.
Right.
You're sinking. You're drowning.
Yeah.
That's not bad though.
If it's a no-way relationship, the two stop becoming one. The relationship ceases to exist.
Yeah. What?
No, I was going to. No.
Attaboy. I was going to say, here comes Rachel butting in again.
Hey, everybody.
She doesn't have that high need for respect. It's okay. But yeah, those no-way relationships, I mean, it's just two people. I mean, that was, again, I hate to keep using my grandparents as an example, but I keep doing it. But I mean,
They were more like roommates that were always irritated with
begrudging
each other.
roommates.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
Wait, who?
My grandparents. She threw a pot roast at him one time.
Wow.
He was pretty drunk. He was supposed to be home at like 4 after a Pitt football game. And then he and my dad and my brother and me, who I'm 12, and I'm hopped up on about 8 Cokes from the Elks Club and big pile of wings or whatever. And I'm like, oh, Grandma seems real mad. And next thing you know, pot roast, which had shriveled down to
You're
about
like,
us.
there's a pot roast flying by.
And then Pop-Up came over for a shot and a beer and went home later. So whatever. But let's end it positively in practical ways of accomplishing mutual giving, which, you know, I think the simplest answer is do it. But the first is to be open and honest and vulnerable. And you go, yeah, but, well, guess what? You cannot be open and honest and vulnerable because there is no mutual giving. So therefore you won't be open and honest and nobody will mutually give. And then you're going to be an island throwing a pot roast at Joe Mitlow. My grandfather, not my son.
Right.
Well, and I think if, like, you're talking about a married couple, and if they have hurt each other in whatever way, like, again, being vulnerable is showing your weakness, and that doesn't feel safe. So a couple may need a third party that feels safe to get that ball rolling. You know what I mean? If somebody doesn't feel like they can be open, honest, and vulnerable, you're not going to wake up tomorrow and be like, honey, we really need to talk. Like, you need somebody that is safe to sit down and the three of them work that out.
You got to clean up the past hurts
Right.
for sure.
Yeah.
Rachel and I did an exercise when we were learning about this where we had to list on one side of the sheet of paper ways we've hurt our spouse. And on the other side, I think I did this with you guys. I don't know if I did it with you guys. And on the other side, ways they've hurt me. Ways I hurt Rachel, ways Rachel's hurt me. And you do this list separately, and then you come together and work through them. And I remember there was like one on my list, and I'm like, I don't want to write it down. We got past it, as Duke said, and I don't want to bring it back up, whatever. I don't know. And I'm like, all right. And I wrote it down. And of course, when we get back together, you're kind of looking at each other's lists, like, how long is hers? How long is hers? Oh gosh, oh gosh. And so I would confess, hey, I hurt you in this way. And when I brought that one up from, at that point, probably 12 years earlier, she crossed off like 7 on her list. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, yeah, I'm winning. But that was a big hurt that was in there. And so when you clean that all up, man, now you're much more free, honey. That was really great for sharing.
Yeah. I'm pretty great.
Yes. You want to identify what your needs and your spouse. And again, we're talking spouse, but this is true with your children. This is true with your friends. You got to know.
What is RNQ?
The Relational Needs Questionnaire. Thank you for asking. If you visit lunchtimeinrome.com, you can hit the drop-down menu and take that Relational Needs Questionnaire.
It's there.
Yeah, it's hard to meet somebody's needs when they don't know what they are. And if they don't know what they are, well, there's a good chance you don't know either. I mean, if you listen to this, if you sit at the table with us every week, you're getting pretty well versed at them. And so, like, Duke, there's, like, in your family, I'll bet you know what your family's emotional needs are.
100%, yeah.
And they have
No idea.
100%. Yeah, that's exactly
you don't
right.
have any understanding of that.
Oh, okay.
And it's infuriating because, like, you've known people that have been in their relationships for way longer than you, and they still can't figure that out.
And
Yes.
they're
Infuriating.
and they're trying to give
because
you
it's
advice.
not like you can say anything. You know what I mean, right? So
There's another podcast, and I don't even know what it's about, but it's about that stuff.
we're stacking those.
the errands of grievances.
Oh.
It'll be in their Festivus.
Yeah. But it's good to be aware of what yours and the other person's emotional needs are so that you can give to meet them. Otherwise you're just shooting in the dark. Mm-hmm. Thirdly, identify and communicate clearly how to meet those needs in tangible and identifiable ways. One of the worst things is when you try to meet somebody's need and you make an overt effort to mutually give, and they go like, okay, thanks. Mm-hmm. And you're like, no, I just gave you affection. They're like, yeah, I know, I'm fine. Mm-hmm. And you're like, and you feel stupid. I mean, you've talked about that. Like, you don't want to feel stupid in a relationship.
Right.
And so it's important for the one person to be like, hey, if you want to meet my need for affection, can you please give me a high five every morning? And you're like, really? And like, oh, I thought you wanted a back rub. No, gosh, don't give me a back rub. Well, then you're going to feel stupid when you give him a back rub. But now it's just a high five in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think that is something we can do so much more in every relationship. Like, and I do that with the kids all the time. And honestly, it's probably more like, here's a way to not hurt me. Not necessarily here's a way to meet my need. But look, when you say this really bothers me. Mm-hmm. I'm open, I'm honest, I'm vulnerable. I let them know here is like the whole incorrect thing. Mm-hmm. That's a phrase I made up on my own. I don't want to be corrected. I really don't want to be incorrected. Mm-hmm. Well, they've learned from that. Mm-hmm. So I've stated that. And now I know if they do it, okay, no, that's a problem. But if we can do it in a positive way as well, like today, Bella, like, hey, could you do the dishes for me? Which I never ask anybody to do the dishes. And she did. And I felt supported and I felt respected. Yay, win-win. Mm-hmm. So it's good to do that. And lastly, when they do at least make an effort, and especially when they do give, and it does meet your need, or they do comfort a hurt or apologize for a hurt, to not only thank them for the attempt, but if they've actually hit the mark, man, you got to make, don't be stupid and don't make it weird.
Yeah.
But point out that they did that. And, we all want to be affirmed, even if you don't have a high need for that. It still feels good to have that. So I hope that you can work on each of these three things. Are we going to put the show notes up there for them to look at or not?
Oh, yeah.
Like the evergreen?
All these notes that we have in here will be in the show notes.
What evergreen? What?
So we took deep dives into each of the emotional needs, and we call them like the evergreen notes, so that they can go back and get a deep dive into each emotional need.
Yeah.
But then they can also go get the full outline, and we'll add Duke's ill-equipped after.
Not that Duke is ill-equipped.
Yeah, I was very ill-equipped for this podcast.
E sub 4 will say one person is ill-equipped to mutually give.
Ah, okay.
So this will all be there for people to reference.
Man, people should go look at it.
Treasure trove.
That's it for episode 206. Please make sure to give us a like or follow on social media and visit us at lunchtimeinrome.com. While there, take our relational needs questionnaire, the RNQ. Thanks for joining us at the table for Lunchtime in Rome. Bye.
Man, that was so much better than Chris. See you next week.
Aw, babe.
That's what Amy said. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was too much.